Hello, my YouTube family and friends. I pray that everyone is having a beautiful, blessed Saturday in the mighty name of Jesus. And if you have not said it already, we're going to say it together. Thank you, Jesus, for another day. It is indeed a blessing to be alive. So, y'all, I wanted to come on here. This is in God wants me to do this, share this video. So, I'm going to be obedient to the Holy Spirit. Somebody needs to hear what I'm about to share, and it's just more than anything, it's encouragement back to me. But I want to first read Psalm 34, and it's verse 18. And it reads, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." I'm going to read that again. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And this is Psalm 34, verse 18. Powerful scripture. So, and if I'm looking away, y'all, I'm looking at my notes here. But I want to just share, many of you all know who've been following this channel. This channel is committed to Jesus Christ. My late husband passed away October 6th of 2021. And so I wanted to share this because I feel like a lot of times, we don't talk enough about, when a loved one passes away, and, we just go through the motions a lot of times, not making light of death, because I know firsthand what it feel like. It don't feel good. No, it don't. But with God, we can do all things. And so, first of all, I want to share, and again, I'm looking at my notes, how grief is a process. It's natural, it's personal, it's intense with a lot of emotions. And, healing does take time. It ain't nothing that's going to happen overnight. If you've experienced, which we all have, if you've experienced the loss of a loved one, it takes time. It really does. And sometimes it takes a lot of time. But the part of grief is acknowledging all of your feelings. Not some, but all of them. You're going to end up tapping into a lot of emotions, even the ones you're trying to suppress. And then most of all, we got to seek support when we need it. So y'all, I have six, I'm going to call them 6 ways that, or I'm not really 6 ways, but I'm going to give you six different categories that I had to deal with. So the very first one is what happened. How did he pass away? So again, for some of you all who may not know, who are new to the channel, so I was married to my late husband for 21 years. We have 4 beautiful children. We now living in, me and my younger 3 children, we're living in Colorado. God told us to pack up everything, move here. But prior to that, we had a pretty nice life. We weren't rich or anything. We were rich in Jesus, but, we had nice cars, had a nice home. Your kids went to a really nice school and lived in a really nice neighborhood. I mean, for me coming from, I'm just going to be honest, coming from the ghetto life of living, it's just how I was raised. I felt like I had moved up. I had came up out of that. So anyway, it was just a blessing to have met him. And we met at a job years ago, and I knew immediately he was the one. I knew y'all. I knew he was the one that God sent to me. And I later found out after he passed away that he went home and told his mama, "I found my wife." I said, wow. And y'all know that scripture, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And so I didn't even know that. I never knew that until after we buried him. But anyway, going back to, try to stay on topic, y'all. Going back to, so we had, we didn't have the best marriage, but we had the marriage that God had ordained for us to have. And I remember when we got married, y'all, that was the happiest day, one of the happiest days of my life. And I was just so happy. I'm married, and because I always wanted a family. I growing up around women who were all single, being my mom, she was a single mom for a long time. And I was just like, I want to be married. I didn't just want to just have a man or a boyfriend. I wanted to be married, and I wanted to have a family. And God blessed me with that. He did. So he allowed me and my late husband to be married for 21 years. And I didn't realize the vows to death do us part. I was going to have to live that. And so anyway, we all got sick with COVID. And that's what happened. And, the kids, the younger three, they got sick. They bounced right back, went on about their business and, back to what they were doing, their everyday living. But me and him, it really took a toll on us because he was 49, I was 47. And y'all, I have never been that sick in my life. I promise you, I don't even get sick like that. But it had such a hold on us. That whole house was just full of sickness. And, of course, we didn't know somebody was not going to survive, that sickness. But we were, drinking water, liquids, juice, whatever, and couldn't really eat anything. And he was the last one to have, gotten sick. Everybody else, I got, mine lasted a while, but he was the last one in the house to get sick. And, of course, he was going to be the one who was going to pass away. So he got so sick. Well, he had diabetes as well. So he had an underlying condition. But he was such a strong-willed man. He still was trying to do stuff for us. And he helped me when I was sick because I was so sick, y'all. I couldn't even walk up the steps to get up the stairs to the bedroom. I was so sick. I couldn't even, it was hurting just to sit up in the bed. And I remember, so as I was becoming better, again, the children had gotten better. So they went on back. My son went on back to work. Girls went back to school. So as I'm becoming a little better, that's when my late husband got sick. And so he ended up having to get taken to the hospital. And so they kept him for a week. And y'all, that was the beginning of the end. So they kept him for a week, and then they brought him home by way of ambulance. And we talked to him on the phone, this, that, and the other, and he said he's ready to come home. But he still wasn't back to his complete self, but he was better than what he was when he took, he went into the hospital. So he came home and he wasn't really eating. His mom would bring over stuff, but he said he didn't want that. So we ended up having communion with him because, we could sort of see, things were not looking so good. And so we prayed, had communion, and then we were just trying to make him comfortable. We kept checking on his vitals and things like that because he was having oxygen. We set up the whole living room so we could take care of him. And so me and the children, of course, and then his family, his brother, he was over there helping a lot. And so anyway, like I said, the Lord allowed me to feel better so I could take care of him. And I was just going to be able to take care of him for a week because he was going to pass away. So he came home Friday. I can't remember what Friday that was, but he passed away on October the 6th. So whatever Friday that was before October 6th. But I was so happy when he came home sort of late in the day on Friday. But I noticed, he wasn't really talking. He's just real quiet. He's paying attention to what was going on in the house, but he wasn't himself. And he didn't talk a lot. I mean, he was a man of few words anyway. But I just noticed, I'm like, he ain't even talking. And I was trying to cut the TV on. And, I remember trying to cut it on Bernie Mac's show because we always watch that sometime. And he said, turn off. And so he didn't even want to hear, no gospel music or anything. So I feel like at that time he was just getting ready, for God to call him home. So he just, he wanted to focus on that. But of course I was in denial. I was in my selfish stage. I wasn't thinking like that. I'm like, he gonna get better. I got better. The children got better. So many other people around us got better. He gonna get better too. Oh yes, he is. God is a healer. I wasn't speaking death over him. I was speaking life over him. And so were so many other people. But God saw otherwise. He saw otherwise, y'all. And so anyway, the day that he was gonna pass away in the home, he passed away in the home that we were living in. We had been living in almost 20 years. And so it was almost 18 years actually. And so it was so many people coming in at that house. His parents had come, his dad had came over, everybody. But, nobody was thinking he was going to pass away. They were just coming to check on him. And I remember that day, y'all, it was trying to rain. It was sort of, misty outside or whatever. And just light rain. And then the neighbor, I remember our neighbor, she had she had asked me, she said, how's he doing? And I said, he's doing okay, we taking care of him. She said, okay. So she had an errand to run or something, and she said, okay, I'll be over there when I try to come over there when I get back home. I said, okay, thank you for asking about how he's doing. So y'all, going back a little bit, pedal back a little bit. So, I was get up in the morning that week that he was at home. I would get up in the morning, because most of the time I stay downstairs because I really couldn't sleep. I really couldn't. But I stay downstairs and with him because he had a hospital bed down there. Everything was just set up like in a hospital room. And he was just, he never wanted to, he would sit on the side of the bed. He didn't want to lay back in the bed. And I said, you need to rest. So I was trying to, bed bathe him and stuff. Because I used to be a CNA years ago. Certified nursing assistant, if you don't know what that is. But that's what I did. So see, it was like God had prepared me for such a time as that, to take care of my husband. But he had told me, he said, that was one of the things I remember. He said, you okay with doing this? I said, turn over. You my husband. I'm here to take care of you. Because, he, like I said, y'all, he didn't like people doing that for him. He wanted to do for other people. But at that time, he needed me to help him. And so I didn't mind doing it. Yes, I was still tired. Yes, I still had, because my throat was still a little raspy from COVID. And so I was just trying to push my way through because I'm like, I got to still keep going. I got to keep going. He at home. I got to help him. He going to get back to where he was. I'm just, that's how I'm thinking, y'all. And so, anyway, the nurses were checking in with us. And this one day, the lady called and she said, the nurse won't be able to come to help take care of your husband. Is that okay? I said, that's okay. That's what I'm here for. So like I said, my man was set on, he was going to get better. We going to get through this. We don't have some hard stuff to go through. We going to make it. God going to help us make it. We believers, strong believers in Jesus Christ. And we've seen his power work in our lives. So I'm just thinking all the way positive, y'all. I ain't thinking nothing negative. And so I was speaking that over him. And so anyway, I noticed there was, this was Wednesday morning, the day he was going to pass away. So none of us sleep that night. His brother was over to the house. And so he was very tired because he was helping a lot. So he had to get back home to his wife and, his family. And so he said, just let me know how he doing, once y'all get going and everything. And so I would get the girls ready for, make sure they good, catch the bus. Bus came right in front of our house. And so my son, youngest son, he was still upstairs. And so just trying to give you how the house was going. And so at that time, I was still off work because, see, I wasn't ready to go back. I still wasn't feeling my best. And my job was okay with that. But anyway, that Wednesday morning, my youngest daughter told me after he passed away, said, Mama, said, I felt something. It was something, I just felt just a feeling, just a feeling was on me. And see, that was the Holy Spirit. It was preparing her. And see, the Holy Spirit was preparing her. She wasn't going to see her father. He wasn't going to be there, no longer be with us when she got out of school. Because, see, he passed away while they were at school. And so, but I said, why you didn't say anything? And she said, well, I didn't know what I was feeling. And so then I noticed there was my late husband. I was sitting on the couch across from him. And of course, he was in his hospital bed. And he just looked at me, y'all. It was just like a, to me, what I felt like it was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. This is God's will. I'm ready to go. I felt like that's what that look was. And, y'all gonna have to go on without me. Whatever's gonna happen with y'all gonna have to go on without me. So anyway, you just don't even think about when you're going through stuff, or it's actually in your face. But I wasn't thinking that's what was going on. I'm just like, yeah, he just probably sleepy because he wouldn't really sleep at night. He was just always sitting up on the side of that bed, and he told me he didn't really want to go to sleep. And I feel like maybe, I feel like he was ready, to go when God said it was time for him to go leave this world. but you know, he still was trying to stay with us. I feel like it was just a little thing there, struggle there. But anyway, I feel like he did have peace though. So the girls went on to school or whatever, and then it was just, of course, my youngest son was still upstairs. He's getting ready to go to work that day, and I don't think he had started getting ready, but he had to go to work that day. So my brother-in-law, this was around maybe, I don't know, it was around the time to eat lunch. And so I had not really been eating because I couldn't eat because there was just so much going on. And so he said, you want anything from Burger King? And I said, yeah. I said, I'll eat. I always got a Whopper Junior combo from there. And he said, okay. And Burger King was it was like maybe what, 10 minutes from my house, just down the street. And so he said, okay, well, I'm gonna go get you that. And he said, I'll be right back. And so he left to go, go get the Burger King. And he said, that's all you want? I said, that's all I want. And so he was helping a lot, helping me with the children and stuff. And so, helping his brother too. And so he left, y'all. He had not been gone, I know, probably not even 5 minutes, 6 minutes or whatever. And so my late husband had told me, he said he had to wear a mask over his face to help him breathe. And they had brought him over a recliner. His mom had brought him a recliner so he could rest better. Because a lot of nights he didn't want to just lay in the bed. So that recliner, helped his back. And we massaged that night before, y'all. We had massaged his legs and feet and just trying to make him comfortable. We didn't think he was going to die. No. But we were just trying to do things to help him feel better. And so I had one leg, my brother-in-law had the other leg, and you could tell he was just taking it all in. He was enjoying it. And so anyway, so after my brother-in-law left, like I said, he hadn't been gone long. My late husband asked me to go get him some water. And he said, water. He lifted up the mask, said water, because he loved drinking water anyway. I said, okay. So from where he was sitting, the living room to the kitchen, it was just a few steps. So when I come back to the living room, he's sitting like, because when I left, he was like this, kind of lounged back. But when I came back, he was sitting straight up. And I was like, what's going on? And as I come around the chair, the recliner, he's transitioning. So he's leaving. He's leaving us, leaving the world. And so I said, no. And I was shaking him, because I was, I didn't want, no, you can't go. I want you to stay. And so I was hollering and stuff. And so my youngest son came downstairs and he said, what's going on? I said, your dad. And so me and him both. And so by that time, I believe by the time my youngest son made it down that last step, he was gone. He had left us. And so it went on to be with Jesus. And so he just, sort of slumped over. And y'all, that was a hard day for me. It was a big, hard day. And so by that time, my brother-in-law, he makes it back home, and I think my son had texted my son, but he was on his way back anyway because Burger King wasn't that far. And so he made it in. Then next thing you know, ambulance was there. So they were trying to revive him and stuff, but I knew he was already gone. And then they were like, call 911, and somebody, I forgot who, and I said, he's gone. Oh, it was me who called. Yeah, I called 911. And so I'm not trying to remember, y'all. I think I called them for the ambulance to come. I don't even know why I did that because he was already gone. And so anyway, the ambulance came. They were trying to revive him, but like I said, I knew it was, he was gone. He had left us. And so I just went over there and made my way over there to the couch. The couch was, the love seat was over there by the window. And I was just staring out the window because I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? I mean, y'all, that changed everything. It changed everything for me, for all of us, me and the children and his entire family. And so, everybody was crying and upset and stuff. And so fast forward, later night, my parents and my siblings, they came over trying to give me comfort. The lady next door, she came back over, but before that, she had come back. We were out. I was outside or something for some reason, and she said, "How's he doing? Is he feeling better?" And I said, and she said, "What? What did you say?" I said, "He passed away." Because by the time she had got back home, they had taken the body and everything. Y'all, I think when it really hit me, was when my sister-in-law called and said, "What funeral home did I want to choose?" And I'm like, "This is real. This is real." I was like, "Whoa." And so, as time, the next thing I want to talk about, number 2, is the days before the funeral. So, as we were leading up to the funeral, which was super hard, people were I was just so, in a good way, I was so overwhelmed by just the love and support, people that I would not even have thought that would have taken time to send money to us, and which, I didn't ask them to do that, but people do that. They do food and they do money because they know what comes with expenses of burying a loved one and everything. But he had insurance and everything, but still, they just trying to, it's just what you do. And so anyway, I was just so overwhelmed with that, like I said, in a good way. People were stopping by the house. They were bringing cakes, and y'all, we had so much food. Oh my gosh, we had so much food. We had to, I would have my youngest son say, take some of this over Nana's house, my mom's house. I said, because it's just too much. It's too much. We can't, this food gonna go to waste. I mean, sandwiches, salads, cakes, pies, chicken, pizzas, cakes. Did I say cakes? Sodas, water. I mean, from you name it, we had it. And I was like, wow, what a blessing. And so then my stepfather, his daughters, they were, cooking for us, cooking meals for us. One sister, she brought over, I think it was lasagna, a big old pan of lasagna. They were just trying to make it very easy for me, because they knew I had those 3 young children at the house. And so they were just trying to help me out, which I sure appreciated it. And phone calls, y'all, I cried and I cried and I cried some more. But I want to be honest, leading up to the funeral, I was sleeping downstairs on the couch. And I remember one night in particular, I was talking to my, she's my biological sister, because we have the same father, but we got different mothers. And so she lived in Ohio. And so anyway, she found out that he passed away. So we ended up talking. We talked a long time on the phone, y'all. And I hadn't talked to her in years. And so her mom passed away years ago. But anyway, she had a really, close relationship with our biological father than what I did. But anyway, just to get a little background there. But yeah, I hadn't talked to her in a long time. And so we was just talking, just talking. And she, of course, she's married and she got 2 children. And so she went on to tell me how much she's been, had been praying for me. And I said, I appreciate it. So that felt good. Sometimes we reconnect with our loved ones through, death, through a sad occasion, but it don't matter. We reconnected. And so anyway, like I said, I think we talked on that phone 2 hours or so. But going back to me, y'all, I couldn't bring myself to go upstairs and get in the bed. Even my children, they started noticing. They said, Mama said, well, my youngest son, he said, Mama, because I'd be fine, up until it was time to go to bed, because this was leading up to his funeral. Now, he passed away on October 6th. We buried him on October 13th. And so it was Wednesdays. There were 3 Wednesdays. So October 6th, he passed away. October 13th, we buried him. And then October 20th was my birthday. So just to give you, that month, that was a hard month for me. But God, y'all, God kept me. He kept me when I couldn't keep myself. I sure couldn't keep myself. But anyway, so I was just listening to a lot of Fred Hammond. When it's a song, When You Pray. I think it's when we praise. Clean Heart. I was just listening to them over and over and over. I was just trying to I was just trying to get through it, y'all. Get through it. And you don't want to bother people. I had plenty of people to call, but I felt like I had to get stronger through Jesus. I had to get stronger through His Spirit, His holiness, because that's the only way I was gonna be able to move forward and make it. And so people can advise you and they can say nice stuff to you, but you gotta have that power of Jesus. You got to. That's the only thing gonna keep you. They words you gonna hear they words, and you may feel better for a little while, but Jesus, He's a sustainer. So that's what I was trying to tap into. So anyway, I felt like I did feel like I was going into depression, somewhat, because like I said, even my youngest son, he noticed. He said, "Mama, you need to go back and get in the bed." And I said, "No, I'm gonna stay down here on the couch." So y'all, I had brought all my not all of it, but my comforter, my pillows, and that's where I was camped out on that long couch downstairs, and that wasn't healthy for me. But at the time, it did what it did. And so leading up to the funeral, but I did hear the Holy Spirit say, but actually that was, I'm gonna get to that part. That was actually after. But leading up to the funeral, like I said, I was getting a lot of phone calls, and people were coming over to the house with the food and sending money through the mail, this, that, and the other. And I I thanked them all, because like I said, I didn't realize how much love surrounded us. I just really didn't realize it. You go to church with people, you go work with people. Even my job, the job that I was working at, the radiologist just showered us with so much love, with so much they helped us financially. So it was just a lot. And so because during this time, we were still waiting on the policy, which I didn't even know how much the policy was, to be honest. But it was a blessing. It's what we needed. And because we never discussed that when he was living. But anyway, so leading up to the funeral, I remember me and the girls, we went and got our hair done. And then I told my sons, I said, y'all need to go find y'all something to wear. So we were trying to coordinate the colors, this, that, and the other. Just trying to, but one thing I can say, we did go over his parents' home. I think it was the night before the funeral. It was the night before or leading a few nights before. I can't remember. But we went over there and, or actually, no, I think it was the day after he passed away. And so we went over there and we were, planning his funeral and everything, which that was really a blessing, because I really needed help. And so they just took over. They did ask for my input, but they took over. I had so much help on my parents' side and on his parents' side, and then the siblings and all that. So everybody was just really helping us get through what we needed to get through. But most of all, we had Jesus. And so, but y'all, the house just felt just so empty without him. And he, like I said, he didn't do a lot of talking, but he had such a presence that we knew he wasn't there. We knew he wasn't, of course he wasn't there, but it was just like, wow, and so we still trying to, talk to each other and laugh and stuff, but it just still hadn't hit like it was, like it was gonna hit. And so number 3, after the funeral. So after the funeral, I remember, I want to go back though, because I want to talk about real quick at the funeral. So at the funeral, I remember we had lined up, with the cars and everything at his parents' home. And so, of course, there was so many people over their home. They got a big home. There was so many people over there, and it was just like everything was just a blur, And so they were trying to figure out who was going to ride in this car, this, that, and the other. And it was just so much going on. And they were, it was just in my spirit so strong, y'all. I don't know if y'all know, but my oldest son is a bonus child. So his mom, and she's married now, and then they have a child together, a daughter. So I had told my son, my oldest son, I still call him my oldest son, I said, make sure your mama, because see, they were trying to ride separately. I said, nope, she gonna ride in one of the cars, her and her husband and your sister. And so I made that be known, because, we all family, ain't no separation. So they seemed like some family members were a little surprised about that, but I said that's what we do, And me and her always had a good relationship. We never bickered or anything like that. We always, she wished me a happy birthday. I wish, we just had a good relationship. And so I said, yeah, y'all pick your one of them limos to get in. I wanted everything to just be because that's how he was, and that's how I was too. But at the funeral, I remember that day, it was just so much y'all going on. And I remember when we walked into the church, because, we still were dealing with COVID, so we had to have on masks. And everything was a lot of people couldn't come in there because after the church was filled. A lot of people, I found out later, a lot of people had to wait. They couldn't get in. It was so many people at his funeral. So many people from his job, people he grew up with. He made a great impact on so many people, and so over the years. And so as we were getting ready to march into the church, I had to take a deep breath because I'm like, okay, this is the last viewing of him, And so walked up to the casket, and I was like, wow, it was just, it was a bit overwhelming because I'm like, it's my best friend, not only my husband, not only the father of my children, but it's my best friend. Because, see, I didn't hang out with nobody but him. We hung out together, me, him, and the children. That's how we was a unit like that. We didn't do nothing separate. Everything we did was together. And so, anyway, he had a really beautiful homegoing celebration. It wasn't gloomy. It wasn't sad and all that. It was a homegoing celebration of his life, and they had video slides and all that. My youngest son, he's in charge of that. I said, your daddy would be so proud of you, son. I said, you did a really good job on the pictures. And so, anyway, just a reflection of the life that his dad lived and stuff. And so going back to after the funeral, it was just going back to that house. I want to add this too. So that morning when we were getting ready to go to the funeral, my mom had come over to our house because, see, they had never been over to his parents' house because they kind of lived sort of a little ways from us. And so they didn't know how to get there. So they said, we're going to come up to the house. And so anyway, they trailed us over to my late husband's parents' house. And so, we all did like that. But I remember that morning we were getting ready, and it didn't even feel like we were getting ready for no funeral. I don't know what it felt like, y'all. But I was like, we really about to bury him, It was very evident he was not in the house anymore. It was very evident that, he wasn't there. He wasn't with us. But I was like, it just, but it will hit me later. It will hit me later. And so, anyway, I'm trying to, what was I at, y'all? So after the funeral, I would come home from somewhere, and, a lot of times the children already be there or whatever, but I had to go to the grocery store or whatever. And he would always be sitting on the couch. The side door, I opened the door, there he was sitting on the couch, and I'm like, he's really not here anymore. And I just boo-hoo, y'all. I just be crying. Not crying a long time, but I'm like, gosh, he's really not here. He's gone. He's really gone. And so, then the people, like I said, people still calling. They were blowing my phone up. That cell phone didn't get no rest for a long time, and then I couldn't even get through the conversation because I start crying because it'll be something that'll trigger. They'll say, oh, he was such a nice man, or he did this for me, and there go the tears flowing down my face. And I'm like, oh, and I cry while I'm talking to them, but then I would keep on talking, and that's just how it went for a while. But the biggest thing after the funeral, I want to say this, I did spend some more time on the couch downstairs, just thinking about him, because that's what I think reason I was so drawn to that part of the house, because that's where we spent a lot of our time. We were up in the bedroom watching TV, but downstairs is where we would, everybody would gather. We'd be down there watching Lifetime movies on Saturday, on Sunday or whatever. And that's just what we talked about. People, that's what we had our talks and whatever. And so ate our wings there. It was always downstairs, of course, in the living room. And so I look over there at the couch that was across from me when I was sleeping on. Is where he always sat. So y'all, after the funeral, I was trying to rearrange stuff. Once we received the policy money, I got rid of a lot of old stuff in there, just trying to create new memories. Because at that time, I didn't know God was going to move us. And so I was just trying to, rearrange things downstairs and make it more whatever. And it was hard, y'all. It really was. It was very hard. And I said, okay, I got to adjust to this new life, this new way of life. God said, just adjust and I'm going to be with you every step of the way. But of course, like I said, it wasn't easy. It was just, I had to get through it. And like I said, grief is a process. And I'm thinking, okay, if I can just be strong every day, but I had to cry. I needed to cry because that was going to release emotions. Excuse me. And that helped me. That helped me get through those hard days. I had talking about him. Instead of me clamming up, and not saying anything, when I would talk about him and talk about the stuff we did, I know people got tired of hearing it, but like now, it makes me stronger. Every time I do this, it makes me even stronger. And I've come a long way. Yes, I still cry. Yes, I still miss him. Of course I do. He's my best friend. He's the one that God sent to me. But I'm stronger today. I'm so much stronger, y'all. Yes, I am. Believe me when I say it. So after the funeral, it was still, wasn't easy, but it had gotten better. And, I think, we were just trying to get back to a normal way of living, if that was even possible. Our new way of living. That's what it was called. New way of living. And so number 4, I must move forward is what I was telling myself. We must move forward, as including me and my children and then his family. And so that was where it was a little touch and go because of course, I did want to move forward. And I shared this before, but there was a lady at our church. She told me, she said, whatever you do, don't stop living. And so I wasn't never going to stop living, but I was just, I was doing my best, y'all. It wasn't easy. It was not easy. And because, like I said, I thought he's going to get better. Of course, I don't know what God knows. None of us do. But I said, he going to get better. We're going to get him back rehabilitation, whatever we need to do, we're going to get him back to where he needs to be. So I wasn't thinking nothing like this is going to happen because it happened suddenly. That's when it happened. It happened suddenly. But I remember I want to share this, on the couch. One of those nights I was on the couch, and this was after the funeral. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, get up, resume, resume, resume. Go back as you were. Go back to living. You can't, nope, we're not doing no depression. We ain't doing no going backwards. We're moving forward. And y'all, I got off that couch. And I got myself back upstairs. I got me some new bedding on that bed, and here we are. We have to allow the Holy Spirit, and it ain't gonna happen overnight. No, it's not. But we gotta be willing to allow it to happen. And I want to share this too. This was after the funeral. My brother-in-law was saying that how he was sleeping with one of my late husband's shirts or something. He had become very attached to him before he passed away because he was over there helping a lot. So, he wasn't there when he passed away. It was just me and my youngest son there. But he had become very, attached, and he was helping me a whole lot. But he was telling me that. So I was like, so I wasn't sleeping with no shirts or nothing like that, but I would smell his shirts. I'm going to be honest. I would go up into his closet, the one he worked in, and because he worked upstairs in our walk-in closet. I work from home. I go up there and just sit in there and just look at his chair he used to sit in and things he used to do in there and stuff, and book, things he used to write and stuff. So, I was guilty of that, and then it'd be something he loved making steaks. So he was actually at that time, not now, because I know how to cook now. I know how to cook real good, real well. But he was the cook in the family, and when he was living, and so y'all, he would make a steak like nobody's business. That steak, he'll do a steak and baked potato, and that steak he'll have that whole that whole kitchen smoked up, but that steak would be perfect. Ooh, I said it tastes like butter, but it would be so good. And I didn't even want the Heinz A1, what is it, Heinz sauce, A1 sauce. I didn't even want that on my steak because it was so good. I didn't want to miss no taste of it. But we would laugh about that. I said, it tastes like butter. And so we just had the best relationship. We laughed. We talked about we talked about people. We talked about his parents. We talked about my parents. Talked about his siblings, my siblings. We talked about everybody. People at church, not saying it was right, but that's what we did. That's the kind of relationship we had. And so, just to give you a little example, we'll come home from church and I'm like, did you see Sister so-and-so, what she had on today? And y'all, that's old me, but don't judge me, but I'm being honest. But I said, did you see what she had on today? I said, and she knew better than that, or sometimes it wouldn't even be like that. It'd be like, I don't know why Deacon such and such he ain't say nothing to me today. Then my late husband, he would always like, yeah, that's why you need to stay out of people's face. Leave people alone. You gonna get that man in trouble with his wife, But I wasn't trying to. It wasn't like that. But we just had this inside joke. He said, "Stay out of men's face," But I just, a lot of men only be my daddy, and the women like me and stuff. But he would just always tell me that, and I'm like, it ain't even like that. I'm just cutting up with them because we'll be talking about food. We'll be talking about something I could relate to them because, see, my stepfather was older. So I just love talking to people. I wasn't trying to flirt with them or nothing because I had a very loving husband. But it was just an inside thing we would have all the time. But we'll just be, that's what I miss most of all. We had great conversation. I mean, nobody. I haven't met anybody since he passed away that can conversate like him. And he didn't do a lot of talking, but we had so much in common. And it became so evident the years and years that went on. We just had a beautiful relationship. God blessed it. But going back to moving forward, so like I said, we had to readjust everything. When he passed away, my oldest daughter was getting ready to graduate from high school. And so she was going to graduate. Well, she graduated June of 2022. And so the same year we was getting ready to, May of that year. Same year God had told us we was leaving. So after he passed away and we found out we were leaving, the house had to be sold. It was just so much going on. So I didn't even get a chance to grieve. Neither did the children because it was just so much going on. And so, but God, allowed us to move forward and to keep going, and I thank him every day that I didn't lose my mind, that my children didn't lose their mind. His parents, my late husband's parents, I feel like they're still dealing with it in a big way. Of course, that was their oldest son. But a lot of times, y'all, we don't realize in order to move forward, we have to address what has already happened. We can't move forward if we don't talk about it. We're suppressing it. And moving forward is realizing you need help. Moving forward is realizing that you need some support. And so I want to go into that. They kept telling me, my late husband's family, his dad, he was saying, yeah, I went to counseling and my mother-in-law, she didn't want to go. She didn't want to go at the time. So after we had buried my late husband, we were going to the cemetery. So I'm a veteran. So we were going to the cemetery, the veteran cemetery. every Sunday after church, we made that a thing. We're gonna go. I said, come on, we're gonna go visit y'all. Visit your daddy. And so we'll say a few words over him, how much we miss him and everything, and we'll leave. But that's how we got through. And then when we found out we were leaving Tennessee, I was like, that one time I was like, this is our last time going, because we're gonna be gone. So I was, I think for Christmas that year, 2021, because he died in October that year, I went and got some flowers and put flowers on his grave. And y'all, I was just doing my best just to get through it, because I felt like if I was trying to act like it never happened, it was never going to be any healing. But we got to know that God, yes, he's the great physician, but we got to do our part too. And our part is to allow him to do what he needs to do. But we got to open up to him. And, there's nothing wrong with talking about your loved one. It ain't nothing wrong with that. And like I said, like now, there's some more healing taking place. Me talking about him. I can do this all day, because it releases whatever is trying to be suppressed within me. I enjoy it. But I know I was looked upon like from family members on his side, why she's so happy, why she's so jolly. But it was God. It's all God, because God don't want us. We got life to live. That person already gone. They, pray to God. I know where he's at. He with Jesus. But I'm talking about, they gone on. They gone on. So we got life to live. We still gotta stay here until God say otherwise. But we gotta keep going on. Keep going on. We ain't got time to be trying to wish they was here and lingering on why they ain't here and mad at God and angry at God. We got to keep living. We got life to live. So again, God, I went to, I'm sorry. So I was going to, my father-in-law was telling me that he had went to grief counseling. And then, like I said, my mother-in-law, she didn't want to go. And then he was trying to get me to go. And I said, no. I said, I'm okay. And so, come to find out, I wasn't going to go. God didn't want me to go to grief counseling there. He wanted me to go to attend grief counseling here at the church we attend. And I said, look at you, God. You are wonderful. And so, because I feel like, y'all, to be honest, if I had went to the grief counseling there, I feel like that would have hindered me in a lot of ways. And I'm going to tell you why. Because a lot of people, after they found out, family members, after they found out we were leaving, they were trying to get us to stay. They were trying to convince us otherwise, to go against God and to stay there. Y'all need to stay here. You don't have somebody pass away. I said, God told us to leave. And I said, when he tell you to do something, you better do it. And so anyway, I feel like that would have, I feel like it would have. I'm glad I didn't listen to them. And y'all, I was so dead set on what God told me to do. I said, y'all ain't talking about that. I ain't listening to y'all. And so God know what's best. And so anyway, when we moved here, I had tried to go to grief counseling at first. I think it was like in 2023, I think. And y'all, I was so, what is it? What's the word? Cocky or bullheaded or whatever the word could be. Thought I knew, so prideful, I guess. And thought I knew, I don't need no grief counseling. So I went in that session. It was on a Saturday. I went in that session and I boo-hooed. There was some older people in there and I was telling them what happened. But then after that, I was like, I don't need to go back. I'm okay. I got my little crying out or whatever. So time went on. The next grief session came up because they have them every year. I don't know. I think it's just one time a year, I think. Because there's another one, I think, that just recently started at the church. But anyway, they have them, I think it's every year. But anyway, or maybe twice a year. But I started going to the one in 2024. And y'all, when I tell you that was such a blessing. It was a blessing, a blessing, a blessing. It was about 20 I don't know, about 20 of us in there total. And it's always a leader of the session, a leader or two of the session. And when I tell you it was a blessing, it was such a blessing. And, you just talk about your loved one. They even have a part of it where you have a picture of your loved one so everybody can see how they look. And you just talk about, your life. You tell about the person, your deceased loved one. And it's just almost like where you're expressing your emotions. That's what it is. And then the rest of the sessions, because I think it's about 2 months total. And then the rest of the sessions, you're just, you crying, you talking about what happened, you talking about how you dealing with it, how your family dealing. It's y'all. When I tell you that helped me so much, and I was suppressing so much, and I didn't even realize I was, but they helped me greatly, and I feel so much better because I attended that. And it was like I could not have attended that other one because God wanted me. That was the one I was supposed to go to, the one that I went to. And they give you, we released balloons at the last session, and it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. It really was. And I just, to hear, because everyone who attended there, of course, they either had lost a child or a spouse or sibling, a parent, friend. So it was very, very, peaceful. It really just comforted me in so many ways. But number 5 is I have life to live. God reminds me every day. Yes, he's gone on. Yes, your best friend. Yes, your husband has gone on. But you got life to live. And like the lady told me back in Tennessee, said, whatever you do, don't stop living. And I wish I could tell her how those words encouraged me, which like I said, I never was going to stop living. But it's good that God used her to encourage me. And she said that to me on Facebook. And so everybody else seen it. She had made a comment on my page after he had passed away. And I said, I won't. And that was way before we found out we was leaving Tennessee and stuff. And so, but anyway, I'm thankful that I did not stop. I kept moving forward. It wasn't easy. It still ain't easy, but I'm thankful that I have Jesus to help me and my children. And like I said, we still talk about him. We laugh about stuff he used to say, stuff he used to do. My son, he mimics him. It's a lot of stuff he used to tell him to do. So it's just, maybe some people ain't there. Maybe they'll never be there, because some people don't want to do that. They're like, ain't nothing funny. But now let me share number 6 and I'm going to go back. So the last one, which is number 6, Jesus lead the way. So I'm allowing the Lord to help me each and every day of my life and my children's lives. We asking him to just keep us in his perfect peace that surpasses our understanding. Had it not been for him on our side, helping us, because nobody else get the credit. He was the only one that helped us in those midnight hours when we were crying. Our pillows were wet with tears, just crying and crying and crying. He was there. He was there. So I thank Jesus. I really do. And but I want to go back to y'all. I forgot what I was gonna say. What I wanted to pedal back to. But just how yes, it's hard. It's hard to get through when someone passes away. And I often think about it. I say, Lord, why did you allow people had come and they came and they went through that house that day? And y'all, I want to share this real quick because I really feel like she was an angel. There was this lady that came over to the house. So I want to just give a little background real quick. So while at this particular time when all this is going on, I was on Facebook. My late husband was on Facebook. His brother was on Facebook. All of us was on Facebook. So everybody knew what was going on with him, the sickness, and when he passed away and all that. So the day that he was going to pass away, I think my brother-in-law had put something on Facebook about just please be in prayer for him and all this, things like that. And so this lady, she somebody had brought her over to the house. I think it was her husband or somebody, a friend or whoever. And because she said she heard about that my late husband was needing prayer. So she came up to the house specifically just to pray for him. And she came in the house, and it was sort of not strange, but it was just, I was just watching her. She came in the house and she said, "Where is he?" I said, "He right there. He's in the living room." And she prayed with him, prayed over him. And then she went back outside. She was just walking through the house, And then next thing you know, well, she was gone. She had left. And so after it was all over and everything, my brother-in-law said, "Did you know that lady? Do you remember that lady who was here?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I said, "No, I didn't know her." She said she stopped by, and because she heard about what's going on, what I was talking about with my late husband. And so my brother-in-law said, "Oh, I thought you knew her. I thought you knew her from work or something." I said, I never seen that woman in my life." And I said, "I thought that was somebody you knew." And he said, "I ain't never seen that lady." So y'all, I really feel strong in my spirit that was an angel that God sent to pray over my late husband. And she, that's what she did. It's like that's what she specifically came to do. And she stayed for a little while. And like I said, next thing you know, she was gone. But God has a way, y'all. He really does. And through that whole time all of this was going on, like I said, I think back over so many different things and how I would have never thought I could actually get through that and be where I'm at today. Here I am encouraging, you all. I pray this reaches who it needs to reach, because, death is it's always presented like it's such a bad thing. And Lord, why did you take my loved one? We make it selfish. We make it about us, but it's not. It ain't about you. It ain't about me. It's about Jesus. It's about what God has the last say so. And while we wishing for that person to be back here with us, most of the time, probably all the time, that person, especially if they knew Jesus Christ, they had a relationship, they're like, "I don't want to come back there." No, I don't want to come back. And I know my late husband would say that. And he used to always tell me, he said, "When Jesus ready for me, I'm ready to go." He told me that way before COVID even happened. So I know he was ready. But we can be so selfish. We can. We want people to stay here and be sick, and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what they dealing with internally. And after my late husband passed away, I found out he was really sick, y'all. He was really sick. And here I was, Lord, why did you, I wasn't questioning God, but I wasn't questioning, but I was being selfish, because I was like, well, I would have taken care of him. I would have did what I needed to be done for him. And the Lord said, "No, you could never have did that, because that was not in my plan." God said that wasn't my plan for him to stay. He's going to live until he was 49. And 49, he was going to pass away. That was just how it was. We got a begin date and we got an end date. And that dash is what we live in right now. So I just want to encourage somebody today, whoever this video reaches, please allow the holy will of God to be done in any situation, because God knows what's best. And we can't move forward if we still lingering on what was. There's nothing wrong with remembering. Memories are beautiful. They really are. But we have to, there comes a time where we got to seek out the help we need. We got to seek out the counseling we need. And that's what I was doing. I was being prideful. "Oh, I'm okay. I'm good." But didn't realize how much I needed to go to counseling. Didn't realize how much I needed to hear somebody else's, be poured into from somebody else. Yes, I was reading my Bible, but I needed to be a part of what someone else was going through, others were going through, so I could be encouraged that way. But then at the end of the grief share, they was telling me how I encouraged them. It couldn't compare to how they encouraged me. Y'all, I couldn't wait for those grief share sessions for that Saturday to roll around, because it was every Saturday. I was so just ready, because I cried at just about all of them, but it was some good cries. I needed to cry. I needed to release that was in me. I needed to. But one sure way of getting through grief, y'all, and please believe me when I say this, is talking about your loved one. Give a testimony about the life they live. What type of person they was. You got to talk about it. And I feel like that's why, it's just my opinion, but that's why a lot of, people are having such a hard time, is because they don't want to talk about it. But you don't realize how much release is in that, talking about that loved one. Because like literally, I'm not lying. When I was on the phone and when the people from church was calling and people from his job, whatever, it was just a release. It was like a healing. It was a healing. Every time I would talk about him, I felt a little better. No, it didn't all come at one time, but it was over time. And I thank the Lord for that. Yeah, I was crying, I was boo-hooing, I was, but one thing I was never angry with God, because I know that was his holy will. I know it was, and it still is. So I pray that if you have experienced the loss of a loved one, which we all have, but I just pray that God will give you his peace, his comfort, his strength from above, and that he will just get you through, and you're going to make it. I'm making it, so you're going to make it too. So my prayers are with you and for you and your family, and please know that talking about them, and that releases a lot of emotions, and that will help you get through. And I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but it will happen. But we got to make up in our mind that to allow God to do what he needs to do within us. So I always know that God, our Heavenly Father, knows what's best for all of us. Not some of us, but all of us. But thank you all for listening.